Welcome, everyone. We'll give it about 20, 30 seconds to get everyone in here. Appreciate everyone for being on here. I know it's Monday night, but Monday night budget. What better place could you be, right? Learning about the District 5 budget. I appreciate you guys. So we'll, like I said, we'll give it about 15 more seconds, get everybody in here so everybody can ask their questions, get to hear the beginning, and just as we go along, and this will be repeated throughout, but you can write your chat or write your questions or comments in the chat. We've got a bunch of county staff on here. We've got District 5 staff on here as well. So people are going to be taking notes. And if we can't get your question, believe me, people are going to be here writing, making comments, and Supervisor Desmond as well, taking this information back and making note of it. And as you see there as well, we have the translation, the interpretation option that you'll see down at the bottom, like you see up on the screen right now. And I think we'll let some stragglers in, but we might as well get underway. And like I said, I really appreciate it. I'm Miles Himmel, Communications Director for District 5, and appreciate you guys for being here. Really important to know your budget, to get to know it. And we have a lot of county staff here that are going to provide some great insight. And so we'll kick it off, and I'll send it over to Supervisor Desmond.
All right, thank you, Miles. And I want to thank everyone for being here tonight, particularly county staff as well for putting this all together. This is the county-wide budget, not just District 5, but county-wide, and it affects everybody, throughout the county. So thank you very much for being here tonight, for being engaged and trying to finding out about the county budget. I always believe this is one of the most important times of the year. And it's vital that we spend, the taxpayer dollars effectively, while also maintaining a healthy financial state through strong reserves as well. And I look at it this way: this is not the government's money. This is not the county's money. This is your money, and we have to use it effectively to improve the lives for all people in San Diego County. And the goal of this tonight is really to get your feedback and to implement it through the upcoming budget. This year's proposed annual budget is $7.1 billion, which is bigger than the entire country of Costa Rica. We have over 3.4 million people in San Diego County, over 4,200 square miles. And it takes a lot of money each and every day to make the county run. So over the next hour, you're going to hear from all different departments here at the county and where the proposed money will be potentially spent on. And being the representative here for North County, we have a lot of different needs in North County and issues as compared to other areas like South County or East County or even the city of San Diego. And I want you to know I'm always fighting for every penny and nickel we can get to make sure that we in North County also get the resources that we need. So it's very imperative, in my opinion, that all San Diegans, all people in San Diego County feel safe, and that our law enforcement officers have the tools they need to keep us safe. So protecting our communities has always been one of my top priorities, and we need to recruit and retain the best and the brightest law enforcement officers, firefighters, and first responders that we can. And as you're going to hear tonight and see, this budget does not defund law enforcement. So I thank my colleagues for that as well. We are not defunding law enforcement, but we're rather increasing their budget and their staffing. And I think this is vital as crime has risen across our nation. But also, as a note, we're also increasing dollars to social needs and homelessness and to serve those people in need as well. So we're not taking away from law enforcement, we're adding to law enforcement and social services. So well-maintained streets, roads, and infrastructure are also imperative for any community. And after advocating for money for our roads for a long time, it's what I tend to do, I'm pleased to see that the proposed budget has an allocation of $60 million to maintain the unincorporated areas of the county, their road surfaces. We're trying to get those up and improve those numbers across our roads and making sure we get as many of those roads resurfaced and smooth as possible. But as I mentioned, the biggest part now of San Diego County's budget is money for behavioral health. I mean, mental health and addiction and the homelessness are our number one problems, our number one concerns we hear throughout the county. And this year's proposed budget proposes $2.76 billion out of that 7.1 2.76 billion spending for health, homelessness, and social services. And we'll add new behavioral health services, fund homeless shelters, and develop affordable housing for those who need it. And those are just some of the few of the items that I've been advocating for and I have been focused on. And you're going to hear plenty more tonight. And you'll have opportunities to write questions in the chat. And not only are there going to be the presenters tonight presenting the information from the different departments, there's also almost 100 staff members on this webinar tonight who can directly answer your questions in real time on the chat. So if you put in a question in chat, as the presentations are going to continue, we're going to have people online answering those questions as soon as they possibly can. So I'm going to turn it back over to our county's Deputy Chief Administrative Officer and Chief Financial Officer, the one who handles all the money in the budgets in San Diego County and knows where every penny, nickel, and dime are, Ebony Shelton. So Ebony, you want to take it away and make the people of District 5 happy, please.
I sure will. Thank you for that introduction, Supervisor Desmond. It's my pleasure to be here with you tonight, presenting to the community on something that's near and dear to my heart, the county's budget. I'd like to thank you, Supervisor Desmond, for your leadership in bringing everyone together tonight to talk about this really important subject. To get things started, I'm going to talk through a couple areas of the budget, starting with an overview of the county's budget process, just to give you a flavor of what goes into building a $7.15 billion budget. We'll talk about what it is exactly that the county does and where we receive resources to support those activities in terms of funding sources. And then we'll dive into a few different views of the 22-23 budget, focusing on total spending levels and total staffing. I'm here with my colleagues from the Public Safety Group, the Health and Human Services Agency, as well as the Land Use and Environment Group. And each one of them will provide you with an overview of their respective functional budgets and highlights of things to come in the upcoming year. And we'll conclude with a discussion on how you can continue to stay involved up until we move through the budget adoption process later this month. So starting out with the discussion on the county's budget process and planning environment, what you see here is a visual depiction of the very robust and dynamic planning process that occurs throughout the year. While we develop the budget and adopt it once per year, we're constantly monitoring inputs from external forces and internal forces that influence the development of the budget and our strategic outlook. So things like your feedback here tonight are one of those feedbacks and influences that we take into consideration in developing the county's long-term strategic plan, which then serves as the basis for the annual 5-year financial forecast. That financial forecast, the first 2 years of that serves as the basis for the county's operational plan or budget. Next slide, please. To help us bring all of this together, we have a very large organization. You'll see here in the next few slides that we have nearly 20,000 employees. We have a general management system that helps us to ensure that we're all marching towards the same beat. This visual depiction that you see here is the county's general management system, and you can see that at the center of this system is community engagement. It is at the heart of this foundational government management model. And wrapped around this model, you can see our values of access, belonging, excellence, sustainability, integrity, and equity. To help us with implementation of this model and our strategic plan, on the next slide, you'll see the county's new strategic initiatives. These initiatives were recently developed to help to ensure that the operational activities occurring within each of the county's respective departments are aligned to our board's strategic vision and framework. If you have some time to take some time to look at the actual budget document, you'll see that each county department has goals and objectives for the upcoming year that align to these strategic initiatives. Next slide, please. A very important activity that occurred this year for the first time ever was the implementation of a budget equity assessment tool. This tool helped to ensure that county departments were applying an equity lens focused on community engagement and using data to inform decisions on resource allocation, all with the goal of increasing accountability. So let's talk about what the county exactly does and where resources are coming from in order to support those various activities of the $7+ billion budget. Working for county government for over 20 years, friends and family often confuse what I do with the city of San Diego, for example, and it's not surprising since there are many services that are provided here locally by various agencies. So when we talk about what exactly it is that the county does, we like to talk about it in 3 broad categories, with the first category being services that the county provides on behalf of the state. These are programs and services that are responsibilities of the state of California that have been delegated to the county of San Diego to execute. So examples of those are our health and human services programs, foster care, adult protective services, and you see those listed here on the slide. And there's usually revenue that comes along with those responsibilities in order to execute them. The next category of services are what we refer to as regional services. These are services that are provided to you regardless of where you reside within the borders of the county of San Diego, whether you live in the city of Oceanside or Encinitas or San Diego. These are services that the county of San Diego is responsible for providing to the entire region. And that includes examples such as running detention facilities, conducting elections, and collecting property taxes, for example. And the last and final category are municipal services that are provided in the unincorporated areas. These are areas that are not within the geographic boundaries of a specific city. And in those areas, the unincorporated areas, the county is responsible for providing all general government activities that you would typically see provided by a city. So for example, law enforcement services, roads, parks, and libraries. The resources to provide these services come in 3 basic categories as well. The first category being program revenues. These are what we affectionately refer to as other people's money. These are resources that come to us from the state and or federal government, for example, where there are specific activities that must be provided. The board has little discretion on how to use those resources, and we must use them in accordance with the guidelines provided by the grantor or funding source. And these make up the majority of county revenues. The next category is what we refer to as general purpose revenue. This is the board's discretionary source of funding, and it generally goes towards supporting local responsibilities such as law enforcement and general government activities. These revenues are heavily influenced by activity in the real estate market, as they're primarily driven by property tax activity. And the last and final category of revenue that you'll see referenced in the operational plan document is what we refer to as use of fund balance. These are one-time resources that are available to support one-time activities, such as information technology upgrades or facility upgrades or capital investments. These are one-time resources that we use for one-time activities to ensure that on a long-term basis that our budget remains structurally balanced with ongoing revenues equivalent to our ongoing spending levels. So with that as background, I'm going to walk through the upcoming 22-23 recommended operational plan. This slide is a visual depiction of 3 years worth of history of the county's $7.15 billion budget by business group or functional area. As you can see here, the budget has decreased from the prior year by $81.7 million, or just a little over 1%. This decrease is being driven primarily by decreases in one-time spending in the current year associated with the COVID-19 pandemic response, as well as fewer investments in our capital program. And you'll hear about some of the highlights of that tonight as we move through the presentation. The next slide is a visual depiction similar to the prior slide, but now focusing on staffing by business group. And here you can see that the county is just under 20,000 staff being recommended for the upcoming budget, with a total of 19,839.5 FTEs. This growth of over 1,000 FTEs, or 5.6%, is largely occurring within our Health and Human Services Agency, which you can see here depicted in the middle of the chart. In fact, of the 1,057 FTEs that we are recommending for growth next year, 595 of those FTEs are concentrated in the Health and Human Services Agency. And as you heard from the supervisor, there are significant investments in areas such as behavioral health services, but also other areas that you'll hear from Director Machione later this evening in the presentation. Additional staffing increases are occurring across the operational groups, and you'll hear from those this evening too from my colleagues. I'll note that in public safety, significant increases are being made to support our public defense activities. We have resources being added in our land use and environment group for various activities, including community engagement and outreach, like what we're doing here with you all this evening. And then finally, in the finance and general government group, I'm happy to announce that investments in staffing include resources to create our new Office of Economic Development and Governmental Affairs, increase our focus on arts and culture, as well as to create a new Public Records Act unit to help with transparency, and resources to promote community engagement and outreach as well. This slide is a visual depiction of the county's capital program. There are multiple investments being made across the region to ensure that we have the appropriate capital infrastructure to provide services to customers throughout the region. You can see examples of those projects listed here, and you'll hear a little bit more about specific services associated with these as we move through the conversation later this evening. So with that, as an overview of the county's budget, I'd like to next introduce Holly Porter, the Deputy Chief Administrative Officer for the Public Safety Group.
Thank you, Ebony, and thanks so much to all of you for joining us this evening to learn more about the county's budget. And I'm here representing the nearly 8,000 employees that work in public safety for the County of San Diego, including the 9 departments that you see on the slide here. The Public Safety Group supports criminal justice, disaster planning and response, and numerous peace officer-related activities in San Diego County. The 9 public safety departments regularly coordinate with regional partners and agencies and seek community input to deliver high-quality programs and services in our community. There are 3 themes in the upcoming proposed budget for public safety that I will highlight for you this evening, including specific fiscal investments that will support efforts across multiple departments to advance our mission that you will see on the next slide. Those themes are justice system reform, investing in our jails, and additional resources for fire and emergency services. Next slide, please. So let's start with justice system reform. Today, there are a little more than 4,000 people in our county jails. That's a number that is historically low for San Diego County. Justice system reform continues to be a high priority and a key area of collaboration and focus in the coming year. We'll be advancing alternatives to incarceration and equity. This effort is designed to maintain public safety while addressing the root causes of criminal behavior. A diverse work group of community, county, and justice stakeholders are evaluating data and best practices to keep the public safe while directing people who commit low-level nonviolent misdemeanors away from jails when there's not a risk to public safety. The goal for this initiative is to reduce justice involvement, incarceration, and recidivism. We're working with the Health and Human Services Agency and will continue to develop data to evaluate the use of mobile crisis response teams and law enforcement drop-offs to crisis stabilization units. Ultimately, we hope these services, along with sobering centers, will represent robust alternatives to custody for people who have substance use and mental health illness and who do not pose a risk to public safety. The Public Safety Group also recently convened a group of key stakeholders to develop options for community-based gun violence reduction and disruption programs. This initiative seeks to reduce the impact of gun violence across the county. Next year, we will lead a regional gun violence community needs assessment to define the scope and the complexity of the problem in San Diego County and to develop meaningful prevention, intervention, and aftercare strategies. The operational plan change letter will include $300,000 to engage in this initial exploratory work. In the proposed budget for the Public Safety Group departments and Health and Human Services Agency together, there's nearly $180 million dedicated to programs that support diversion from jail and mental health interventions that represent alternatives to incarceration. $180 million is a very significant investment by the County of San Diego to provide services and support to people to address housing, educational, mental health, and substance use issues that often contribute to criminal behavior. Part of the $180 million supports 15 additional staff and $16 million in probation to fund a new pretrial services unit. This program will provide needed connections to care and services in the community for individuals who've been charged with a crime but are awaiting their first court appearance. Through this program, we hope more people can be monitored in the community rather than in custody until their day in court. The proposed budget also includes $400,000 in the district attorney's office for innovative countywide diversion program for transition age youth accused of misdemeanor and felony crimes. It's expected approximately 500 youth ages 18 to 24 will be eligible to participate in the diversion program, which will be based in restorative justice principles and other practices focused on addressing the underlying causes of unsafe behaviors. The Sheriff's Department will remain focused in the coming budget year on advancing mental and physical health care in our jails. The investment in jail health care totals $131 million in the recommended budget, and that's up from $123 million last fiscal year. The department is working to achieve national accreditation for their jail system healthcare by meeting 59 standards of care. To assist in this effort, the Sheriff's Department recently went from more than 20 contracts for the delivery of medical care in the jails to one single contract. They expect to meet the accreditation standards within the year. Just as we've seen troubling increases in fentanyl and meth use in our community, the impacts of addiction are also reflected in our jail system. Medication-assisted treatment for individuals in custody has begun and will be expanded in the coming fiscal year. The Sheriff's Department is already working towards and plans to meet the recommendations of the recent state audit, which includes improvements to mental health screenings at jail intake, which have already begun, additional follow-up medical and mental health care, and safety checks in the jail setting. Recognizing that wildland fires are a persistent risk in San Diego County, we remain committed to investments in prevention, mitigation, response, and recovery. The San Diego County Fire Protection District Community Risk Reduction Division will work to better protect residents and homes from devastating wildfire by working with homeowners to achieve a 90% voluntary compliance rate with defensible space standards on all parcels inspected. Fire expects to exceed 34,000 defensible space inspections next year. And finally, $16 million will be included in the CAO budget change letter to support a firefighting helicopter that will bring very valuable night flying capability to our local firefighting efforts. In total, the CAO recommended budget includes $2.4 billion for the 9 public safety group departments. This is a $173.7 million difference from last year, driven largely by salary and benefit increases, retirement contributions, the net addition of 173 staff, and increases due to strong projected receipts and sales tax revenues that support public safety. Public safety group departments are requesting 173 new positions, 90 of which are in the public defender's office. This budget includes $5 million for the public defender's office to support the Immigrant Legal Defense Program, providing legal representation to individuals in federal custody who would not otherwise have legal counsel. 90 new full-time employees in the public defender's office will support and address many unfunded state mandates that require expert legal analysis and additional work. Attorneys will be added to collaborative courts, the public defender's mental health unit, and also the Fresh Start program, which helps people clear their records. The decrease that you see here on this slide in animal services is due to a one-time cost. It's due to a one-time cost for a mobile unit that we hope will be operational in the coming year. Next slide. In summary and in closing, here are the significant budget changes in the public safety group. The district attorney is adding 11 staff to support trauma services in South County and their transitional age youth diversion program. The sheriff is adding 1 position to support medical operational management responsibilities, and resources will be added to support their comprehensive medical and mental health services contract. 5 positions in the sheriff's department are requested to facilitate the implementation of body-worn cameras in their detention facilities, and to also manage the collection, storage, retrieval, and preparation of that video evidence. The medical examiner is adding 6 positions to address their staggering 40% increase in workload over the past 5 years, particularly in the area of fentanyl overdoses. And probation is adding 15 staff for their pretrial services program that I talked about earlier, and 9 staff to support their youth development academy, which is part of their implementation of a new state law, which transfers responsibility for supervising certain youth offenders from the state to county probation departments. Probation anticipates about 12 youth will enter that program in the coming year, and they will be provided with rehabilitative services. And as I mentioned a bit earlier, 90 positions in the public defender's office. The San Diego County Fire District is adding 5 positions for their community risk reduction programs and community paramedicine. And their roadside vegetation management program will expand the management of vegetation along 200 miles of key county evacuation corridors. That's a summary of the public safety group proposed budget. And at this time, I will turn the presentation over to my colleague, Nick Machione with the Health and Human Services Agency.
Thank you, Holly, and good evening, everyone. I'll be providing a high-level overview of the proposed budget for the Health and Human Service Agency. The agency provides safety net services to the public in 3 main areas: health, housing, and human services. In addition, it has a very robust service delivery system serving all communities and neighborhoods throughout the San Diego County region. Its many programs and services are designed to help all San Diegan residents live well. And we make this happen through the tremendous efforts of our 7,200 talented and diverse Health and Human Service Agency employees, our volunteers, and our many, many community partners. Now, reflecting on this past fiscal year, our agency has in many aspects performed double duty, responding to the COVID-19 pandemic while also strengthening our community safety net. Let me share a few examples. We strengthened our organization by adding departments to lead the work around the board's priorities, including standing up the Homeless Solutions and Equitable Communities Department to lead the county's innovative and results-driven framework in ending homelessness and helping newcomers to the region. And on the topic of homelessness and housing, our agency's Housing and Community Development Services has led new affordable housing projects countywide with an aggressive goal of achieving nearly 3,400 affordable housing units. Within the next 4 years, that will help house over 35,000 vulnerable San Diegans who are struggling with some of the life's greatest challenges involving health disparities, poverty, and homelessness. Another new department is our medical care services. Its mission is to strengthen our Medicaid safety net and ensure equitable access to a high quality and sustainable medical care delivery system, including working in partnership with public safety and supporting our justice-involved population's access to health and recovery. In regards to public health services, this year, our team conducted 400,000 disease case investigations and 130,000 related contacts, many of those related to COVID-19. And while the global pandemic continues to cause significant challenges for individuals and families, we remain grounded in our mission to provide comprehensive whole person health, housing, and social services with an expanded attention to behavioral health. In fact, this past year, we provided over 100,000 San Diegans with mental health and alcohol and other drug services, and we'll be exceeding that even more with this new budget. To support San Diegans in meeting their basic needs in living, we continue to ensure over 1 million San Diegans are connected to safety net programs and benefits to provide things like food and nutrition, housing, health insurance, and employment training. And we provided over 2 million meals to older adults to help address food insecurity and social isolation. Now, the agency's recommended budget of $2.8 billion includes continued increases across service delivery areas and an increase of 595 positions. Although the budget reflects a decrease of $84 million, the decrease is driven by the removal of one-time COVID-19 costs and it masks the growth. In fact, if we have an adjustment for the pandemic response was removed, the budget would be increasing by a net of $158 million. Next, I'll go over some highlights of these areas of investment. Under behavioral health and public health services delivery, we have $95 million in increases. We're proposing 227 new positions for supporting behavioral health and public health service delivery, as well as enhanced clinical support. We're adding resources to continue to help address identified ongoing unmet behavioral health needs throughout our county. This includes additional treatment services, as well as expansion of long-term care capacity, and the continued phased implementation of our mobile crisis response teams throughout the entire county. We'll also be starting the first year of behavioral health screening for school-aged children. We call it the Screening to Care program, and it will begin with middle school students. And we continue to build upon prior year increases to public health services overall with additional staffing to support across several areas, including maternal child health and family health services, HIV and STD programs, hepatitis C and disease surveillance programs, among others. Now, under homelessness and affordable housing, we have $52 million in increases. We're increasing our budget for continued efforts under the framework for ending homelessness, including areas such as implementation of the coordinated eviction prevention program, which will provide legal services and housing counseling and outreach and prevention services, and one-time stimulus funding for affordable housing developments. I'm also excited to highlight the board's support of $10 million in one-time county funds for partnerships with cities to build service capacity in the region by acquiring shelters or locations to serve the homeless population in their respective cities. And we're proposing 30 new positions, including positions to administer and issue additional housing vouchers awarded through the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. And for efforts to strengthen children and families and support seniors and meet safety net demands, we're proposing increases of $54 million. We're proposing 321 new positions to increase access to essential safety net services such as Medi-Cal, which is health insurance, CalFresh, which is a nutrition program, food safety and for vulnerable elders and dependent adults in our in-home support services and adult protective services program, and strengthening children and families through a focus on prevention and child welfare services. We're also increasing food and nutrition services and have proposed increases for CalWorks supportive services to align with increasing caseloads. The budget provides additional support for evidence-based child abuse prevention, mental health services, and in-home parenting skills programs as well. In summary, our agency has made strong investments addressing the priorities of our community and of our board. The agency and its community partners are fully engaged in helping communities thrive, not just today, but also by looking ahead and making plans for a sustainable future. Thank you. This concludes my presentation. Now I'll turn it over to the presentation of my colleague, Sarah Agassi, who serves as the Deputy Chief Administrative Officer for the Land Use and Environment Group.
Thanks, Nick. Thank you for the opportunity to highlight the programs in this year's proposed budget to continue protecting the health and safety of the community and taking care of our natural environment. If you work, live, or recreate anywhere in San Diego County, chances are you interact with one of our services every day. Some of our work spans across the entire region, serving residents and visitors. This includes operating 156 parks and 33 libraries, protecting consumers and conducting food safety inspections. District 5 is home to 33 county parks or preserves, including Guajome County Park and the Del Dios Highlands and Hellhole Canyon County Preserves. We also have 6 county libraries and 7 little free libraries in District 5. When it comes to land use decisions, stormwater management, or roads, our services are limited to the unincorporated area, which is home to more than 500,000 residents and larger than Rhode Island and Delaware combined. Our total proposed budget is almost $619 million and includes more than 2,000 employees to serve our community. More than half of our budget is invested to protect the health and safety of the community, provide infrastructure, and to improve the overall quality of life. These proposed funds will help us to continue repair and improve community infrastructure, keep our roads and airports safe, educate and connect community members at our parks and libraries, improve housing affordability, and support and protect our local agriculture. Specifically in District 5, next year's infrastructure investments would include a Green Street water filtration project in Fallbrook that will remove 2,000 pounds of sediment annually, reduce flooding, and improve walkability and safety. There's also funding for work on Coal Grade Road and a safety fence on South Grade Road, as well as improvements at 3 intersections, 3 bridges, and 4 sidewalk projects. $19 million is also slated to resurface roads within District 5. Throughout the unincorporated area, for everyone's benefit, we'll be fixing guardrails and culverts, constructing ADA pedestrian ramps, and improving sewer lines. As Supervisor Desmond shared, $60 million is specifically budgeted to resurface county roads, and another $23 million will protect the region's consumers and 5,100 farms. The county's commitment to sustainability continues to grow. We are committed to addressing climate change, including the update of our climate action plan to achieve meaningful long-term results. In the past 4 years, the county has invested more than $80 million into climate action measures that reduce greenhouse gases. We are the first county in the nation to create a regional decarbonization framework, which brings the community together to move the region towards zero carbon emissions. 44,000 acres of land and habitat are also protected through the county's 3 multiple species conservation plan areas, and we have preserved 3,000 acres of farmland. County operations are also becoming greener, including its vehicles. Our gas-powered fleet is moving to electric or hybrid models, including 46 being replaced in our group alone. To support electric vehicles, we are increasing the number of public charging stations and helping consumers learn about and select an EV that fits their needs through our online EV consumer guide. By 2028, our goal is to install 2,040 publicly accessible charging stations at county facilities and throughout the unincorporated area. With $113 million in our recommended budget, we will continue our work to advance an equitable, healthy climate and protect the region's precious natural resources. This proposed budget supports equitable involvement in county government, and these funds will help us continue to offer inclusive programming that inspires civic engagement, helps people who faced hardship in life to refocus on their education, builds confidence among teenagers, teaches a new language, and discovers ways to improve internet access in unincorporated neighborhoods. The 22-23 recommended budget shows a $3 million increase for Luge. However, to support the various services we provide, there is an additional $50 million allocated for Luge projects that is accounted for in another section of the county budget to support things such as tree planting, sidewalks, bike lanes, and stormwater management. When you factor this in, our budget increases by about 10% or $53 million. We're seeking 171 more staff who will help us increase community engagement, support neighborhood parks and libraries, and to complete key projects. This includes bringing some contracted services in-house, which is anticipated to save $5 million over the next 5 years. For more information on our spending priorities, we have placed infographics on our website, which are translatable into world languages. The URL is noted on the screen, and we are placing that link into the chat. We appreciate the opportunity to share what our group does and how we invest the public's money. And now I'll turn the presentation back over to Ebony.
Thank you so much, Sarah. And thanks to all of you for spending this evening with us. This final slide that we have for you has some key dates upcoming in terms of activities associated between now in budget development or actual adoption, excuse me, starting with June 13th, Monday at 9 a.m. We do have the official kickoff budget hearings beginning on that day, and you have an opportunity to share with the entire board your feedback on the budget, either during that hearing or during an evening hearing, which we have scheduled on the 16th at 5:30 p.m. If neither of those dates or times work for you, you're also welcome to provide feedback on the budget in writing, which will be shared with the entire board. If you would like to arrange for translation services during any of those hearings, we also have those services available that can be requested and coordinated in advance by using the contact information listed here on this slide. And finally, on June 28th, the board is scheduled to deliberate and adopt the budget. So with that, that's our overview of the budget, and I'll turn the presentation over to Miles. Thank you.
Thank you, Ebony, and thank you, county staff. That was awesome and very intricate. And thank you for providing all that. So now, if folks have questions, again, we've got an awesome amount of county staff on here, over 100 county staff members on here. And so if you have questions, specific issues, specific questions, maybe somewhere you say, hey, I like where the money was going there, but I'd like to see more going here. Please let us know if you have a question as to why, why is one's being funded versus something else, or if you didn't see something, please write it in the chat. This is your opportunity, along with the opportunities that Ebony just mentioned as well. Supervisor, do you have any thoughts on what you saw there?
No, but if anybody has any questions on budgeting or issues, concerning North County or District 5 or anything in the county, don't be bashful. Reach out to my office, and you can, we'll happily, guide you or get you in touch with the right people to give you the right answers for any information. So I'm not seeing any questions in the chat. I don't know if I'm on the right end of that or not, but feel free to reach out to my office anytime. We'll always happy to help.
Also, one thing while we're kind of letting people write in here and have some thoughts, one of the questions I know specifically for District 5 Supervisor is, and I don't know which county staff member can answer this, but about parks. If anybody can jump on and talk about some of the parks that maybe are coming to North County, or where some of the funding is going, and maybe not just North County, but all throughout the county. Is that you, Sarah?
Thanks, Miles. It looks like Brian's on. Go for it, Brian.
Okay.
Yeah,
Brian?
thanks, Miles. Hopefully you can hear me. I'm happy to share a little bit about the parks budget. It's one of our largest ever. In addition to spending almost $37 million in the planned budget next year to help take care of parks, we have several additional park projects that are moving forward in District 5 that are proposed as part of this budget. The Bonsall Community Park, a 65-acre park, will be under construction. And also as part of this proposed budget, we will be acquiring a piece of property that will be for a new park on the eastern end of the San Luis Rey Rio Prado Park. So many exciting park projects in D5.
Awesome. Fantastic. And I know we've spoke, Brian and Supervisor, about the Bonsall Community Park, and I know the folks in Bonsall and Fallbrook are fired up about that as well. Another thing, and I think it was Sarah that you mentioned, and sorry if it wasn't, about roads. Obviously, Supervisor Desmond mentioned roads and just how important and the money. Can you kind of go into a little more detail about that?
Sure. So for purposes of roads, we have, as Supervisor Desmond highlighted in his introductory remarks as well, $60 million, which is the largest amount of funding we've had dedicated for road projects resurfacing. And then 19 million of that is specifically allocated for purposes of District 5 roads.
It's good news, Supervisor.
Yes, absolutely. We're always happy to hear, when roads are a big thing for the unincorporated areas, and they want to make sure that they get them. So we appreciate the $60 million there, and really, the more the merrier. And if people understand it or not, but there's a special index for roads. You want between 0 and 100, and we're striving to reach 70 and hold at 70. Right now, we're in the high 60s as far as our road index is concerned, and we're still trying to get to that 70 point and then maintain it. And I know we could do better, but we want to make sure that that's the new minimum, because the longer we let roads go, the more expensive it is, and we all get that. And like as Sarah had pointed out, or even Brian Albright had pointed out, the parks are very important, and we've got quite a few coming along. You mentioned along the San Luis River there, the Bonsall Park, and then the Valley of City or Community of Valley Centers, looking for more parks, and so is Fallbrook, and so always those are well, well liked, and people can't wait to get them. So we appreciate everybody's effort. But it was a good presentation tonight. I don't know if we have anything else we want to wrap it up, or we're just any and everybody that's been on tonight. We're not getting much in the chat room, but happy to answer any questions leading up to the board hearings. And then it's Ebony mentioned there's going to be a few board hearings, public sessions. We're going to take information from, as much as we can from the public. And this, like I said, this is your money. Hopefully, we're trying to do it. Everybody's trying to be responsible and spending it in the right way. And I'm going to continue to fight for North County and make sure that we get what we need. So thank you very much for being here, everyone. Thanks for the county staff for being on board and making this presentation for North County. We appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.